Thank you for joining us to learn about the importance of data-driven decision-making. In this video, we will cover the importance of being data-driven for all your different marketing channels. Let's get started.
As we know, marketing tactics and technologies are ever changing. The data is endless. We talked in previous webinars about, all of the data and combined in the whole world has been duplicated, triplicated, quadruplicated in the last 2 or 3 years with IoT and just incoming data from all these devices and people creating data. And so what do we do with that data? Because what people want to do is capitalize on it. They want to figure out if that data is useful, and then how it can help me hit my goals. How can it help me execute on my strategy? So overall, there is this big lack of operationalizing data insights. And this is huge. We went through it, as I mentioned, in the past at Infragistics in like 2005, 6, 7. We weren't as data driven as we could have been, but the culture of the company has changed where now everything is data driven. Sometimes it's annoying in a meeting because you think you're getting somewhere and someone's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe we didn't think about this thing and let's go take a look at that. But the result ends up being the right result because you're using data to drive these decisions. And the shocking thing is 61% of marketers don't use marketing analytics to influence their organization's behavior or actions, which blew my mind when I saw that statistic. But why? And this happens at every company. And in fact, I'll give a couple stories around this as well as to why it happens. So first of all, they don't understand the metrics to track. There is this big issue with moving the needle, which means, are we getting to money? Are we making money? And so what are all the things that go before making money? So how many people are hitting our page? How many people are downloading our product or registering for our product? How many people are we converting at a certain product or a certain price point? And then ultimately, what is that revenue? Versus metrics like we've boosted page views 47% month over month. And then the marketing guy gets a bonus because his metric was to boost it 20%. Well, we know a marketing person can pretty much do things to move the needle to any metric that is a vanity metric because they're easier to hit and they really don't get to that final thing, which is the dollar sign. Inadequate tools to capture their prospects and their customers' full story. So what tools are you using to actually get this data and how are you analyzing that data? And then one of the things we're going to talk about a lot today is benchmarks and industry standards. So one of the things I always ask Casey and others on the team is, what's the industry standard? What's the benchmark? Because I'll see a presentation and it'll be like, we're down 7%. Okay, that's great. What does that even mean? I don't even know what 7% means. 7% to what? To the benchmark of that specific product on our own metrics, on an industry standard, on a goal or a KPI that we have. So there's all kinds of things that you really need to keep asking these questions like what, why, to finally get to the right answer. And this is shocking, but 2 out of 3 marketeers have said database decisions are more effective than gut instincts, which I was kind of blown away by this, but it still happens today. Gut instincts drive a lot of people's decisions and emotion drives decisions like, oh, Apple made record stock gains last month or in their quarterly results and their website does this thing. So let's do that thing because it works so well for them. Well, that's purely emotional and gut instinct. It has nothing to do with fact. It has nothing to do with maybe how it relates to your product or really how it relates to your customer. What is your customer actually looking for? Apple customers, they're rabid fans. So they are extremely emotional. So Apple is constantly hammering on this emotion through their web imagery, through their emails, through how they advertise their products. But what if you're selling a bolt? What does your customer actually care about when they're looking for that bolt? They're not looking for that emotional thing. They need to know that you've tested that bolt to the nanometer, micrometer, so it'll actually fit on the screw for the nuclear machine that they're trying to build. So you really have to understand things like your customer journey mapping. Who is your target customer? You have to A/B test on what works and what doesn't. How do we personalize the website? And there's some really cool tricks to do this. And then really, how do we segment our market? And segmentation can be done in many different ways, but it ends up being very important. So for example, Infragistics is a software company. We have offices in Tokyo, in London, in Bulgaria, Montevideo, Uruguay, New York, New Jersey, and India. So if we just said blanket, we're going to treat every area where we have offices 100% the same, we would be wasting a lot of money. If we didn't segment and say, listen, while India is a massive market for developers, the buying power is actually in the UK, because a lot of these guys are software integrators that are working for banks or manufacturing companies. So we don't really want to market to the Indian developer community. We want to market to the UK tech executive. And so we segment out every aspect of our marketing to ensure that the results are matching to what our expectation, our goals, our KPIs are. That's very difficult to do because it takes a lot of tweaking, experimentation, and learning over time. But that's just one of the tricks when we talk about marketing. So when we think about these channels, there's a large range of channels, and you can't, unless you're like a big company, like Infragistics, a small company, 300 employees, we're not like this big conglomerate like Microsoft. I mean, the number of employees we have, Microsoft has on their marketing team for probably SQL Server. Like we can't do every single aspect to the depth that we would like. And most likely you can't either. Most of our customer profile is either a small business or they are a silo in a large enterprise, right? And so they're kind of doing things on their own. They have a budget and they might have 5 people in their marketing team, 10, not 300. So you have to pick and choose where you can monetize and capitalize the best on your goals and KPIs. So at Infragistics, while we do have folks that do community building, we have folks that do speaking engagements, we have folks that do community development and things like that, the biggest bang for our buck is through 3 key marketing channels that we're going to talk about today. And that's social display ads, email marketing, and SEO. And actually, a little thing about social display ads, we start to get into it. That's a whole nother topic unto itself. So we're going to touch on it real briefly, but we're going to do a whole nother webinar on social, because social ends up being something that you could really go down a rabbit hole, because it ends up being a huge expense in marketing today. And the results would vary based on what your target is, what your products are, and how you're actually going about it. So pretty interesting when it comes to the different channels. But you may feel that in your specific vertical, for example, if you are in oil and gas, oil and gas does really well in trade shows because they need to go talk to CTO level people who are looking to make big decisions, which is like, not, am I going to buy a couple $1,000 software? It's more, am I going to invest, $500,000 to $5 million on a platform which is going to help me build this next billion-dollar platform, in the North Sea to dig for oil or find gas in the desert or something like that. So based on your vertical, it may be different. Viral marketing is a whole nother thing. This works really well with SaaS apps. It works really well in social, but it might not really work well if you manufacture windshield wipers.
Be sure to check out the next video in this series where we dive into the key performance metrics of your email marketing. And as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Reveal BI.